Hey guys, what's up? It's Joe. I already had my coffee, so I'm just gonna have a fucking seltzer water. Gotta stay hydrated. Passion fruit. Yeah, I like seltzer waters. Yeah, kinda tastes gross. Alright, so I want to make a quick video here. Something actually pretty fucking excited about. Now, I mentioned before like a bunch of times in my videos that I'm a real big fan of the brand ROCCAT, especially this mouse, right? The ROCCAT Nith. Yeah, it's a really cool mouse, and like it has been a massive help for me in the sense of me being an editor, right? However, the thing is, like this mouse got discontinued, right? And like it's a bit of a bummer, but at the same time, it's understandable. It is a very niche product, right? However, Corsair, they do sell and currently are producing a mouse that's kind of like has that similar design pattern. It's the Scimitar RGB Elite. I knew of this mouse for like the longest time. I never used it. I haven't touched it, right? I just know of it, right? But the thing is that I was not a fan of their software, to be honest, right? Like, a long time ago, Paul, he had the Corsair Vengeance keyboard. And this keyboard pretty much had a lot of macros here on the sides, right? And like, he wasn't using it. I told him I'm interested in like learning to use this keyboard so I can create more macros with it, right? And yeah, he handed it over to me. I used it, and then I started messing around with like the software at the time, Corsair software, which is called iCUE, and I just did not like it, right? Which was very shit. I don't know. It's just, I kept deleting my macros, like the way how I was able to record my macros I didn't like and all that stuff, right? So eventually this keyboard broke. Paul had the K95 Platinum keyboard, so he handed that to me to keep working because they stopped making the other keyboard, right, with all the macros. So, I still use this, and I was still, using the software, Corsair software at the time to create my macros here for the site. And like, again, I just did not like it. It wasn't very user-friendly at the time. But as you can see here, they had like a recent update, and actually the 13th of this month in November, right? I'm making this video on the 19th of November, 2020, right? Through the settings, you're able to like update the software, right? I did a check for versions, check for updates. I did that. I started messing with it, and actually I'm super glad that I did, because it turns out like they did a massive amount of work on this software, and it's like way fucking better. Now, like I mentioned before, I didn't like the software at first, right? So I'm not gonna focus too much on that now, because they did made a lot of improvements, right? So I'm gonna like pretty much go into what is it I like about it now, right? First of all, most of all, the thing I noticed right off the bat, because I started messing with doing some macros with this keyboard, is speed. Now, with the ROCCAT Nith, when you install the software, one thing that it installs is basically Microsoft C++, right? Yeah, so when you first install the software swarm, like that's something that it gets installed is basically the Microsoft Visual C++, right? So you can obviously use some coding, right? To be able to create your macros in it and all the stuff like that, right? I'm not exactly sure what coding software obviously iCUE is using, right? But the thing I noticed is that with ROCCAT Nith, sometimes like my macros will get stuck, or there's a bit of a delay at times. Like it's very small, right? But I mean, like there's a noticeable a bit of a delay at the moment. However, with the iCUE, I noticed that like my macros, they respond very quickly, right? Another thing that I like is basically there's more customization features. Obviously, as you can see here, I got a standard desktop. You can create the icons. The user interface is pretty adjustable, so I can increase the window here, the size of it. Now, that may not be like a big deal, but doing that is actually helpful depending on what monitor you're using. Because if you were to go from a 1080p monitor, then you go over to like a 4K monitor, and if the user interface, the window doesn't adjust to that, then it gets very tiny and it looks like shit, and it's kind of hard to work with, right? Now, Cooler Master, they have the Cooler Master Plus, redundant, but I kind of been messing around with their keypad. Yeah, I'm using their keypad, their control pad. I like that. It's cool, it's fun, but the thing is, I don't want to go too much into it because it just came out, right? But the software itself is not that great at the moment. Definitely needs some work, and as you can see, if I try to scale up the window, I try by going to the edges here, it's not possible. I can't do that. So yeah, it may not seem like a big deal, but like being able to like scale the window of the user interface when you're messing around with a software for your peripherals, it is a plus, right? The other thing I noticed that I like about this thing is basically you can create multiple profiles, obviously, and then like you can have a custom profile icon. You can also link to the program, right? So here's Premiere Pro, right? Just made it very tiny just so for this tutorial. So I got a profile they have selected for my key mapping, right? So this is pretty much how I have my key set up for like the lighting. So this is just my standard keyboard, right? Desktop layer, right? Just, you know, whatever. So if I was to select on my Premiere Pro, the software, because it's linked up to the Premiere Pro like a executable file, it jumps back to its profile. If I just click on the desktop, boom, it switches automatically back to like the desktop, and I just think that's really, really cool. Now, the reason why that's cool is because you can map any key on your keyboard to be a macro, right? That's really cool because, you know, there are certain keys that you do not use, right? So in my case, these top keys here in the top, which is print screen, scroll lock, and pause break, I don't usually use, actually I don't use those keys at all. Those are keys that I'm able to now remap to create macros with, right? So I actually did create on the print screen key, I did create a macro. So if I was to, just to show you what I'm talking about. So I dropped an image here in my timeline. So if I wanted to, when I select my image and then I wanted to like move this towards the top left corner of the screen here, I actually created a macro on the keyboard using the print screen. So I just push it once and it gets selected and it's boom. You know, it does it quick, right? I also have the macro selected to like, once it gets positioned to like the top left corner, the scale position is selected. So now what I can do is I can use the arrow keys and also move the anchor position to like the top left, right? So now pretty much, you know, once I move the image, it automatically is ready to go so I can scale it up as I need it, right? And I did that mainly by like just mapping the print screen on the keyboard, right? So that's cool, right? Because, you know, when I'm working, the software jumps to my Premiere Pro profile with all the macros I already have mapped out. And when I'm not working on Premiere Pro, when I close it, it goes back to like the default layout of the keyboard. In my case, I like using a full keyboard, right? I like having the options of having the keypad, like the buttons here, even the multimedia keys, right? Even though I do not use these multimedia keys for myself personally to listen to music or whatever, I can remap them to be macros, right? Or whatever else I need, right? So yeah, this software along with this keyboard is really cool that it is able to do that. Now, someone I learned a lot from, like in regards to editing and creating macros and shortcuts and all that, is Taryn, you know, from Linus Tech Tip. I actually watched a lot of his tutorials, and like he did a tutorial on how to create a separate keyboard and have a software, I think it's hotkeys, to create your own macros, right? And I did follow that. However, I quickly realized that that is not for me. One, as you can see, pretty much having all these keyboards, it takes up a lot of space, right? And I was working in my room that wasn't that big, so I didn't have that much space to work, right? I still don't have that much work on my current desk, right? So one thing I learned to appreciate is having something, say like software such as the Corsair iCUE, right? You can just hit the profiles, hit the plus, hit the plus, hit the plus, and now you have a bunch of profiles. You can jump around here. So instead of having a bunch of keyboards laying around, you can jump around profiles and do it that way, right? Now, obviously, there's a lot of memorization to go on, right? If you're going to do something like that. Taryn has, in one of his videos, has explained that the reason why he works like this is almost like he being a pilot, right? You have all the controls in front of you, so you can, whenever you need something, you know where to look at and just press it and go on from there, right? So that's cool. However, that doesn't work for me, right? When I'm working, basically what I am to be is, I want to maintain my hands like this for as long as possible, right? The reason why I like this mouse is because all of my shortcuts and commands are right on this side of the mouse, right? So I can use my thumb to press them, right? And as you can see pretty much in my keyboard profile, most of my shortcuts, I switched over to my left-hand side when I'm editing, right? So all my commands are around this area. Then it kind of like feathers out to like most important, second important, and third not as important, right? And then like it goes on from there, right? So pretty much moved all my shortcuts towards my left hand area, right? So I want to be focused like this editing most of the time, right? So the cool thing about this keyboard as well is like actually using the media keys up here. If I also press them, it kind of jumps to another profile, right? You can see here on the left area. Now I haven't done anything to it, but just showing you that there's three built-in profiles that you can switch to. So from my main profile, by holding down like the back key on the media keys, by holding it, switches to profile 2. If I select the play or pause key, it switches to profile 3, right? So if I'm editing and if there's something I need to do, you know, I can save it to like one of these profiles just by holding it, do my shortcut really quick, let go, then it goes back to like my main profile for Premiere Pro. and continue editing, working in that area, right? So it's almost like having another keyboard built into the keyboard, right? And that's pretty cool, and it's gonna be helpful for me, right? So that's how I work, and that's how my mind works, right? It's a lot of memorization, but I mean, like, it works for me, you know? And it saves me a lot of space on my desktop. That way I don't have multiple keyboards and stuff like that, right? You know, he does this because, you know, he's really into it, and, like, you know, he's definitely smarter than I am. But yeah, mad respect to his layout and how he does things. God, this video is going long enough. All right, so to end the video, you can use all the keys to create any macro you want. And that's something that for someone like me, gets me very interested to work with this software more, right? Because, you know, I want to have more options available. Like I said, since I don't use like the media keys up here, I can assign macros to them. I don't use these keys down here, so I can assign macros to them. I don't use these keys up here, so I can use the macros with them. If I run out of like macros or space, I can switch between profiles, and it gives me more options to like add more shortcuts and macros and so on, right? So that is kind of cool. You have multiple keyboards basically inside the software, right? So that being said, basically I'm considering basically now may put my ROCCAT mouse aside. You know, I want to get the scimitar, right, and pretty much like start messing around with this thing, right? Obviously, there's gonna be certain things I need to get used to, right? Because it's not the same mouse. I really wish it had the fin on the top. I also wish it maybe had like the feature kind of like this. It has like the easy shift on the top of this mouse, right? So you can like jump between profiles. So, you know, certain things like that obviously need to adjust, right? But that's no problem. All right, I'm going to end the video there. This is definitely probably gone longer than it needed to be or than I wanted to, right? So yeah, the new iCUE software. I'm glad I came back to it and started messing with it. I think it's really cool. Corsair, you got a happy clap. Thanks for updating this shit. And ROCCAT, I still love the mouse and I love your software and other good stuff, right? But for how I work and for what I need to do, I'm gonna probably like start using the iCUE software a bit more. But ROCCAT still has a special space in my heart. So anyways, that's all I got for you. Take care and peace.